Hi, welcome to another edition of Max and Nikki 1000th Time Reactions.
Where we react to a song for our 1000th time listening to the song. Today we're going to be listening to a very popular song, Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen.
Which we've heard so
Countless
many times.
times.
I mean, you know,
Definitely well
I know
over
we say that
1,000
all
times.
the time, but I mean, it's true, particularly with this one. I mean,
Yeah, we definitely listened to this many, many times.
I mean,
maybe even tens of thousands of times.
not only that, we've seen Wayne's World, which repopularized this song.
We'll talk
in the
about all
90s.
that after we react
Okay,
to the
sure,
song.
we'll talk about it later.
But in the meantime, we'll react to the song. But before we do that, just want to remind you guys all, as I usually do, that we have another channel called Max and Nikki, on which we perform oldies tunes, jazz standards, and originals in that vein.
And there's comedy videos on there as well.
Mm-hmm.
But for right now, let's get into the song. Here's Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen.
For our 1000th time.
Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy? Caught in a landslide, no escape from reality. Open your eyes, look up to the skies and see. I'm just a poor boy, I need no sympathy, because I'm easy come, easy go, little high, little low. Any way the wind blows doesn't really matter to me. To me. Mama just killed a man, put a gun against his head, pulled my trigger, now he's dead. Mama, life had just begun, but now I've gone and thrown it all away. Mama, didn't mean to make you cry. If I'm not back again this time tomorrow, carry on, as if nothing really matters. Too late, my time has come. Sent shivers down my spine, body's aching all the time. Goodbye, everybody, I've got to go. Gotta leave you all behind and face the truth. Mama, I don't wanna die. Sometimes wish I'd never been born at I see a little silhouette of a man. Scaramouche, will you do the fandango? Thunderbolts and lightning, very, very frightening me. Galileo, Figaro. Magnifico! I'm just a poor boy, nobody loves me. He's just a poor boy from a poor family, sparing his life from this monstrosity. Easy come, easy go, will you let me go? Bismillah, no, we will not let you go. Let him go! Bismillah, we will not let you go. Let him go! Bismillah, we will not let you go. Let me go! We'll not let you go. Let me go! We'll not let you go. Never let me go! No, 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 no. Oh, mama! Mamma mia, mamma mia. Mamma mia, let me go. Beelzebub has a devil put aside for me, for me, for me. So you think you can stop me and spit my eye? So you think you can love me and leave me to die? Oh, baby, can't do this to me, baby. Just gotta get out, just gotta get right out of here. Nothing really matters. Anyone can see. Nothing really matters. Nothing really matters to me.
Well, you know,
Bohemian Rhapsody. Now
it
that
really truly is a bit of a rhapsody, you know.
Well, it is an epic
It's
tune. But you know what?
There's so many movements in
Rhapsody
it, you know?
in that it is. You can clearly hear the influence of classical music in this.
Sure.
Not just
and
in
opera too, maybe.
an opera, but not just. Well, I mean, kind of classical music
Sure.
in the general sense of the term.
Sure.
But you can see how not just in like the piano and in the melodic arrangements, but also in its structure as well. It's very much kind of a through composed kind of thing with movements and
Sure.
but nothing kind of. You'll hear kind of allusions to things from the previous parts of the song, but nothing kind of. There's no like verse and chorus and kind of bridge, verse, chorus. It's not like that kind of structure.
And
you know,
yet
kind of a pop
it's all
tune,
very
you know?
catchy. And it's a
catchy,
it's a pop, it's orchestral pop classic, you know. It's, you know, something I was realizing.
Well, I don't know about calling it an orchestral.
So-
There's no
so-
orchestra in this,
but there's something orchestral about it.
Sure,
you know?
sure.
But there's something that I never really paid attention to before, and I just realized this time around was the sort of liberties they took with the panning. I mean, the instruments kept moving at different spots in the stereo spectrum of the song. You know, the piano starts off on the left side at first, and then it kind of moves its way to the middle. And the lead guitar, it kind of switches back and forth on from the right to the left. And
yeah, I was going to mention, and
it's-
actually, and something I noticed. I was looking at the video at the time, but what's his name? The guitarist again?
Brian May.
Brian May, thank you. Who's also an astrophysicist, by the way, or
he
maybe just
actually-
astronomer. No, I think
no. He's
astrophysicist.
an astrophysicist, and in fact, he is the headmaster at a university in England.
University
I wanna
of
say
Leeds, I think.
It's University of Leeds. I think
I
it's
think
University
it's
of
what it
Leeds.
is,
Yeah.
I think basically when they finished touring with Queen and everything, I think he went back to school and
Got his
decided to
PhD, I
pursue,
think, a doctorate
decided
in
to pursue astrophysics. So he basically got to do everything he wanted to do in life. Isn't that kind of crazy? But,
Sure.
Okay. Anyway, I was looking at the video, and when he was playing guitar, he was actually just tapping his fingers to play the strings. Actually,
Well,
at times.
okay, but that's. I mean,
I mean, we don't know if
we don't
the
know
video
if
is.
the
but I
video is
imagine-
not exactly replicating what they did in the
I think he
sound
just,
booth.
I think that's probably what he did. But
in the studio.
But speaking of the sound booth, speaking of the studio, I believe at the time this had the most tracks ever used for a song.
I mean, you
actually.
can tell how many vocal tracks are going on. I mean, it seems like they went through some painstaking
I think they went the-
hours to record this song.
I think they took it to the limit.
They did take it to the limit, and even the vocal harmonies are just coming in from all sorts of different directions. And sometimes, like a vocal line will start in one spot in the stereo spectrum, and it'll that the same line, the notes that's sung through will move over to
Right, but
the
you know what's
left
kind of
or the right,
interesting
you know?
is speaking of the spectrum, like in the music video, if you look at it, they kind of do this kind of effect with this kind of spectral thing going on, this
But,
imagery. But I was going to say that. Anyway, go ahead.
This is such an enjoyable song. It really is something that everybody can sing along to, and most people know most of the words to the song. And it really is because of the movie Wayne's World that repopularized this song.
Repopularized the song.
It
I mean, it was a big
invigorated the career of Queen, actually, because
Sure.
at the point that Wayne's World came out, I think Freddie Mercury had just passed away not too long before.
Freddie Mercury.
That's what I just said. Freddie Mercury.
It sounded like you mispronounced it.
Freddie Mercury had passed away not too long beforehand, and it sort of reinvigorated the popularity of Queen, and this song. I think that movie made this song sort of, just live on into for generations upon generations. After that,
because the movie was a very popular movie. If you haven't seen it, I implore you to watch it.
And
It's
in fact,
very
in the
good.
movie,
very funny.
This is a somewhat of a known thing that Mike Myers really fought to have this song be the song they lip sync to in the beginning of the movie, because
originally they wanted a Guns N' Roses song.
No.
actually.
The producers or the director.
No, not the director.
Not the director.
The
but
director kind of fought.
The producers
to have it, actually.
basically they wanted something new, like a Guns N' Roses song to be in
Right.
it. But Mike Myers was like, no,
But that's not
what we did when we were
kids.
kids. We used to do this to Bohemian Rhapsody, and he really fought. And Lorne Michaels said, "All right, if you really want it that badly, then we'll try to get it for you."
And thank goodness it's become
he won out.
iconic. It's an iconic.
That just
scene.
goes to show you sometimes
Iconic song.
your perseverance and your
Trust in yourself.
if you trust in your vision and are persistent in it, then don't listen to what these Hollywood producers are going to tell you. Do what you think is right, and if you stick to your guns, it'll pay off.
Well,
I
in
think.
this case, they didn't stick to their Guns and Roses. I guess.
Okay.
Joke. But actually, I was going to say.
And
something-
Guns, not to say, I mean, Guns
Guns
N'
N'
Roses
Roses
is a great band.
great band. But I understand what he was going for. He was going for something that had a nostalgic thing for him.
In fact, we actually grew up.
Anyway, I did want to also mention one thing about they kind of took a little bit of liberties as well with the kind of the meter, the
times.
beats, the beats kind of, because it would.
What do you mean the beats? You mean the time signature or the tempo?
Not the tempo necessarily, but kind of, and not like the pulse. I would say the pulse in that they, at times, the way the vocals harmonies would enter, it wouldn't land. It would start kind of going with the beat, and then it kind of drifted away from the beat a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
You know, they did that at times.
I
Either
understand the
vocals or
idea behind
the
that.
guitars.
Sometimes you have like a vision of how things should enter and exit, or
Right, that
and
don't necessarily
start
fall,
and finish.
They don't fall within the pulse
But you
of the
have,
song.
but you have an idea of how the feel of it should be,
Right.
And I've been through that myself when we record our own songs, and sometimes I'm like, maybe somebody who's mixing our song, or if we're mixing it ourselves, or sometimes we'll have a disagreement about. I have a vision that I started off with where I want the vocal to enter at a certain point, and then somebody like maybe Max or somebody else will say, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't go in time. But I'm thinking to myself, no, but in my head, that's how it works. I understand. And this kind of proves that sometimes I know I'm rambling a little bit, but sometimes if it doesn't sound like at first that it's going to go with the beat, maybe you just have a different kind of vision that still works anyway.
Well, it also keeps it kind of fresh in a way. It doesn't keep it, sort of
by the book.
adhering to the, adhering it to its, exactly, Anyway,
but we can keep
we
going
can
on
keep
and on
rambling
about this song.
this. It's
There's
a great
so
song.
many things.
Although one more
we haven't
thing to
even
note
covered.
is that, speaking of perseverance, with the band itself, they were urged by, I think, their record company. They wanted to release this as the single, actually, and this is almost 7 minutes. Or what is this? Oh, it's actually 6 minutes. But anyway, it's a long song, nevertheless, for a single, and the record producers were like, no, you can't.
You can't put this out as a single.
You can't
It's
put
too
this out as a
long.
single. It's too long. We need,
Or if anything, they wanted to cut it down for a radio edit.
right, and they
they were
said
like,
no,
no.
we got to make this the single, and
The full version.
they were right. They were right.
Hey,
By the way,
that
this
same
was
thing
the
happened
I will say though, this was the 70s when album-oriented radio or album-oriented rock. Is it?
RM-oriented rock.
Album-oriented rock was
Kinda
really
dominated.
big, and they dominated the radio waves, and radio was down to play long tunes.
Sure.
So
But it all started with the Beatles, really. When Hey Jude, they put that as a single, and they questioned whether or not an 8-minute song would be popular, as a single. They said it will if it's the Beatles.
well, the
It will if
Beatles
it's
did it, but Queen was pretty popular, but they were not.
They weren't the Beatles.
They were not the Beatles. So,
But hey, it's a great song. Obviously, the guitar work by Brian May is really great, and the bass work on
bass work
by
is really good.
Deacon, John Deacon, I believe his name is, right?
Deacon. Have you guys ever seen Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure? I think of Deacon as the first name of Ted's brother.
Yeah,
what
sure.
a name! That's
Is
such a
it John
funny
Deacon?
name.
Can you want to look that up real quick? I'm pretty sure it's John Deacon. We got Roger Taylor as the drummer, Brian May as the guitarist, Freddie Mercury, obviously the pianist, and John Deacon is the bassist.
That's right, John Deacon's the bassist.
The bass work is really great, and even the bass would enter in different spots in the stereo spectrum, which is really cool. And obviously, the drumming is everything is top notch in the song, and I think that was a high standard that Freddie Mercury placed on the recording of this song.
I mean, you also hear. There's a kind of as we said, alluded to it being kind of has a classical kind of sensibility, but it also has you can say kind of a musical theater sensibility. It's very grand,
Sure.
But
you also-
from what I understand, Freddie Mercury was really into musical theater.
But what also makes it kind of classical sounding is Freddie Mercury's piano playing. He's a very good pianist.
I mentioned that earlier. Yeah.
Oh, did you say that?
Yeah, yeah. It has this kind of. It sounds a little bit like, it kind of makes you think just a little bit like of Tchaikovsky's piano concerto number one.
I really like the sound of the piano too, the quality of the piano that he used.
A little bit.
And it's also, the piano is interesting where in the beginning there's not as much reverb on it, I think, and then the reverb on the piano or almost like the distance from which they recorded the piano becomes longer and larger, and it's almost like the sound, the timbre of the piano gets bigger as the song progresses, which is interesting.
Anyway, I think we've spoken a lot about this. But please,
Hey,
comment if you have more to say.
an
Comment
intricate
on the
song
video.
like this deserves this long of a talk about it.
Sure, it's great. It's a hit.
Hey, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ding that post notification bell. And
Please keep tuning in.
yeah.